Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. My guest today is Chu, aka Trust the Boy. We first got connected on Twitter. He's a Canadian, he's making money online. And how's it going, man? Chu, how are you?
It's going well. I just left Latin America. I'm back in the amazing Toronto, Ontario, which used to be amazing, but not so much anymore. But yeah, I appreciate all the posts you've made about Latin America. It kind of helped me decide to go to Buenos Aires that I just came back from.
Sweet. So I think in this episode for the listener, I think we'll do a little bit of a comparison, maybe things you've noticed in your time outside of Canada versus in Canada. Probably do a good amount of Canada hating or just kind of hearing your experience in terms of how it's gone downhill. I'll let you do most of the talking. And then maybe a little bit of how it seems to be that you've got really good traction with building social media platforms, making money online. You do like video game influencer stuff, right?
Correct. I play FIFA. It's known as FC 24 now, but I basically just create content for FIFA, the soccer video game that everybody loves. I used to work on it at EA Sports in
Mm,
Vancouver from 2012 to 2015. I was in marketing over there.
mm,
And I quit just to basically do stuff on my own. I always wanted to work for myself versus with a company. So I've been doing this gaming content creation since 2015, and essentially just
really?
tell people who to get in FIFA or FC 24, which players to buy because it's connected to the real world of soccer.
Hmm. Wow. So how long have you gone without having a job?
Oh, so what? It's been 9 years now. I want to say. I don't think I would ever go back. Actually, let me bring the microphone a bit closer. I don't think I would ever go back. I'm a very stubborn guy. I'm sure, like a lot of us online people are, where we kind of don't like to be told what to do. But for me, it really wasn't just that. It was I mean, I've been playing FIFA since I was 6 years old. I played the first ever FIFA in 1994, so it's something I've grown up with. It's a video game I love, and when I start
Hmm.
working on a video game I love, you kind of see, how you see how the hot dogs get made. You, it's very hard to take when you're working on something you're so passionate about it, and then you see inside that people aren't as passionate as you are, and then you want to make so many changes, and people just are kind of dialing it, like phoning it in 9 to 5. They don't want to do the extra
So,
work.
so Chu, sorry to interrupt. I would say put the mic down or just like have it at a consistent length
Oh yeah,
for the range for the conversations, just so it's not like in and out type of thing.
yeah, my
All
bad.
right, so what you just got back from Argentina. How about you walk us through just things you've noticed? I always enjoy hearing other people's just observations about things that are different, even the most minute things. The speed bumps are different. Just like all these little things. Why don't you walk us through some maybe epiphanies that you've had?
To be fair, the first thing I noticed is that how everything runs a lot slower. Services, especially like the elevator of my Airbnb, got broken down, and it took like almost 2 weeks to fix, and nobody seemed to care, to be honest with you. So that was very interesting. Usually in somewhere like North America, US, or Canada, I lived in the US for a decade before Canada, and by the first day everybody's complaining. By the second day everything's fixed. So that can be good and bad. A lot of the other Canadians that I met over in Buenos Aires were very frustrated with just the lack of speed and services, but they do just live a slower paced lifestyle, which might not be the worst thing in the grand scheme of things in terms of long life. So maybe they're healthier than us because we're stressed out. I'm in Toronto where everybody's just stressed out with bills and everything and the pace
Mhm.
of life. So that was the number one thing I noticed in Buenos Aires and in most Latin countries. I was in Mexico City last year, and that was probably more of my pace. Like I don't like to be very. I'm not the most relaxed person. I don't like too much free time, but in Buenos Aires, it definitely was a thing where everybody was just kind of like chilling. I can kind of tell why. not to be rude, I can tell why the economy isn't moving crazy because it's like they're not. They're not hustling except for when it comes to football. When it comes to soccer, they love it.
Tell me more about your experiences with other Canadians in Buenos Aires and some of the types of conversations you guys were having.
Honestly, I was in Buenos Aires from February till just last week, and I'll be honest, I met more Torontonians there than I did in Toronto. Like, I made more friends from Toronto there. It was very, very eye opening. Usually, when I go on, I live somewhere else. I will meet a lot of Americans, a lot of Brits. This time, I met way more Canadians than anything else. I met friends. I made friends there that knew some of my friends back home. I went to college with my buddies back home. So it kind of showed me that I always had this hunch that something wasn't right after lockdown and pandemic and everything. But then just being there and seeing that many Canadians who are all very forward thinking, very smart, everybody had their own business. It kind of made me realize that like it wasn't just me that was looking for other places to live outside of Canada. This was like a thing that the people who are very smart are
Mhm.
doing because I think maybe in like 10 years the rest will catch up. So the fact that I met that many Canadians and we'll be at expat meetups and literally everybody's like, why are there so many Canadians? I just met like 10 Canadians tonight in a room full of like 50 people or something like that because everybody just want to get off of the winter. But a lot of the Canadians there are going to stay permanently. Some are trying to get the passport, obviously. And then a lot of them are just kind of hopping around different countries in Latin America. A lot of my buddies went to Brazil just now. Some were in Brazil for Carnival, Peru, things like that. Colombia. They say things about Colombia now. Honestly, the reason I was thinking about going to Colombia, but I looked at all the buddies that I know in Toronto that were going to Colombia this time, and I'm like, those are dudes I would never want to hang out with because they do too much coke. So I wouldn't hang out with them in Toronto. So I'm like, I don't know why they go to Colombia, but something tells me that I shouldn't go with them. So I decided to go to Buenos Aires instead of Medellin.
Mhm.
But,
So you're seeing a bit of a trend of Canadians, not just in our corner of Twitter, but really Canadians at large that are considering other options. Do you think they're trying to move permanently, or do they think it's just for the winter, or just for a couple of years until we get Trudeau to office, or how are people thinking about it?
it seemed half and half. I think half the people I met, it's a permanent thing. The other half, it's like half a year kind of thing. I'm even in the half a year category because I mean, I do like Canada. I don't want to give up on it, but just I start to notice the patterns. I start to pay attention. I was never into politics. Now I understand politics, and I'm seeing that it basically is a society and a government that basically doesn't like extraordinary people. Wants everybody to be in this little bracket in terms of income, and it's hard to break out. I used to live in Vancouver, and in Vancouver, that was probably one of the slower paced big cities in Canada. And I remember when I was living there, I would try to make my own side business, and a lot of my friends would be like, "Oh, you work too hard." I'm like, that makes no sense because in Nigeria, I'm originally Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria. A lot of people know Nigerians. We like to hustle. Let's get work done.
Hmm.
So we go where we need to go to make money. If you go to a city or a country, you don't see any Nigerians, you should leave because there's no money there. I guarantee it. Anywhere there's money, there is a Nigerian there doing a lot of business, right? So I always knew Canada was always kind of like into being mediocre. When I looked at the people I would hang out with sometimes in places like
Hmm.
Vancouver, but then I start to understand the policies and how our governments work and everything like that. And I was like, they really don't want you to succeed, is the vibe I get. So
Why
if
do you
I
say
want to
that?
succeed, well, I mean, looking at
Like,
things like
what?
that,
What?
like,
Yeah, go ahead.
um,
Like, what kind of
I
things are
was
you
gonna
seeing that
say,
would?
I would say that like look at the increase in capital gains tax. Like people see that and they think, oh, it's just only going to affect the really rich people, things like that. I think it's what capital gains got increased after 250K. But what does that tell you? What does that tell anybody who's going to be the next? owner, the guy that's going to make the next Shopify, the guy that's going to make the next Canadian great company. Basically, you don't give him any incentive to stay in Canada. Anybody I know that is really intelligent in my personal circle that's Canadian or highly successful, the majority of them have left to go to the US. And why would you want to stay here if you're highly successful? You make a lot of money, but half your money just disappears because of taxes. And I was feeling that because I kind of hit that 250K mark, like in general, in terms of like salary for my business. And I won't lie to you, I had a personal emergency last year, and I had a family member pass away, so I had to spend the emergency funds. Right, I had to travel back and forth to Nigeria, and I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
doing pretty well for myself in Canada, but I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. That makes zero sense. So when I look at all that and look at the taxes, and then I start to delve into what taxes we have and like, why is our GST? Why is it 13%? That makes no sense. This carbon tax thing, just based on like looking at the harsh lockdown that we had, that was kind of what triggered me into researching these kind of things because I was locked in my apartment in Toronto for almost 2 years, and I'm like,
Mhm.
why would they let me go to the liquor store but not the gym? That always stuck with me. I was like, why would anybody who wants me to live a good life let me go get drunk but not go to the gym? So that stuck with me, and then just looking at all the tax laws and things like that, I don't know how somebody who wants to be successful has better chances here than in somewhere like the US. Just doesn't make sense.
And I think another thing is that historically, ambitious Canadians, have always moved to the US, and it's been like that for 50 plus years. Um, but I think now we have that additional option of not just going to the US, but going 100% international, and registering in a tax haven and having a US LLC pass through entity and all these aspects of things of a international lifestyle or a sovereign citizen lifestyle that My Latin Life talks about. Obviously the majority still go to the US, but I think now what we're seeing as well is people who are getting residency in Mexico, in Paraguay, in Costa Rica, and so forth. And that's only been more possible really in the past 5, 10 years now that we can truly make money online.
That is 100% true. And like I said, last year, it was like my first time living outside of Canada after lockdown. And before that, I sorry, in that year, I went to Mexico City. I was saving like 40% of my money just on basic things like groceries. And it was the same quality. So I was kind of like, huh. Like, I just wanted to go there just for the sake of being somewhere warm. I mean, that's usually why I go to Latin America. I don't speak
Mhm.
Spanish, which is something that I definitely need to consider if I do want to stay in Latin America, obviously. Mexico City, you could kind of get away with it. I had a buddy down there, so I was like, hey, you know what? Let me just go see that buddy. And the food was great. The food was amazing. I don't think anywhere beats Mexico City for food. Like the street tacos are just
Mhm.
absolutely insane. And I was like, the groceries are the same quality food. My rent's like 40% less. Huh. That's kind of interesting. Like, there's nothing I can't get here that I can get in Canada. I can get Amazon. I can watch Netflix. I can go to the movies. That's interesting. Maybe I can't speak Spanish, but if I'm a guy from North America, US and Canada that speaks Spanish, is there a reason why I wouldn't want to be here if I could save 40% of my just living income? So, that thought went through my head. Things really hit me when I went to, right after that, I went to, my best friend lives in Poland, and he's the one that always tried to get me to, he saw what I was going through during lockdown. And, we both went to college in the US, and he did a crazy thing at the time where, he was having a great computer engineering job. He's Nigerian as well. And even though he had a great job, he moved back to Nigeria, and we all thought that was kind of like crazy because Nigeria. The thing is that life's a bit, I guess, a bit crazier over there. There's not always running electricity. Your power goes out a lot, but you can solve the problems. But you can live like a king if you make like 50K in Nigeria. You can live like
Mhm.
an you can have a driver, a maid, a cook, you name it with 50K. So he went back and he basically just saved a ton of money. He bought like two condos in the capital city of Nigeria for the same price as the down payment I paid for my condo in Toronto. And I went to go visit his apartment for the first time a couple Christmases ago, and I was just like, "Yo, his two condos are literally twice the size of mine." But the only difference is that mine is in the city that everybody feels like they want to go to for some reason. I don't know, to watch the Toronto Raptors. So I was kind of like, man, that kind of sucks. I mean, he got a way better deal. His wife is from Poland, so he lives there for half the year, then lives in Nigeria half the year. So I wanted to go see him in Poland. And even in Poland, I was kind of looking at it. I was like, again, this is the first time I've lived outside of Canada since lockdown. I was like, why is Poland that much cleaner than Toronto? Like, it was absolutely spotless compared to Toronto. It was absolutely safe. Probably the safest city I've been to. Literally didn't see a petty crime, didn't see any fights, didn't see anything. Road rage, nothing. It was just like the most calm city I think I've ever been to. Highly recommend for anyone watching. Um, and then I came back to Toronto later that summer. I was just like, I'm not joking. I went to Shoppers Drug Mart as soon as I got to my place. Went across the street to Shoppers Drug Mart. There was a guy shoplifting, got caught. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, we've really fallen behind. I think I made a TikTok about it, like on my personal account, Trust the Boy, and I was just kind of being like, I came back and I just noticed that Canada fell off. Like, just seeing the decline is insane compared to like countries in Eastern Europe that everybody told us was,
Mhm.
oh my god, they're next to Russia. Oh my god, they're scary. Nah, those guys are living way better. I met a buddy in Poland making like 80K. He's got like a three-bedroom apartment in the middle of Warsaw, and I'm making twice as much as that, maybe even three. And I'm not even living a better life than him. He's going out eating on the weekend, every day of the weekend on 80K. I'm trying to figure out who's got better prices, Farm Boy or Loblaws. So that's when it started to hit me, and I think that's why a lot of people are going down to places like Latin America.
How much do you think you need to make in Toronto now as a single guy to, I mean, get by is a loaded term, but to live like decently well, go out for dinner a bit, hang out with the guys.
If you want to be a single guy in Toronto and get baddies, that's the addition. Getting baddies, because Toronto runs on baddies. That's the economy of of Toronto. If you're into that lifestyle scene in the 20s, a good life to 200, 250, I would say, in this day and age. Which is very interesting because that's, for those of you maybe watching who don't understand Toronto, Toronto is basically run by the guys who are like in their 40s and late 30s. Like, those are the guys that are talking to the girls who are in their early 20s, because it all comes down to resources, right? So in this day and age, I don't know how I'm 37 right now. If I was like 25, I don't know how I would compete or survive in a downtown Toronto scene. Where you go out, you get drinks. I mean, you're probably spending 100 a night on drinks alone. So I would say to have like a really good life, 200 to 250. You could have a decent life for maybe 120 to 150, but I would say it's like the 200, 250 mark.
What's the breakdown on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, groceries, if you want to eat good, you're probably spending, if you're a single guy, probably spending like over $500. Going out a month, excuse me, I would say 500 plus bucks a month, maybe even more. Let's say even 700 with the way prices are, 750. Then you consider going out on dates. You're in Mexico, dates were very cheap over there. In Poland, they were very cheap as well. You could spend $30 for dinner for two. In Canada and Toronto, for dinner for two, you're probably spending with tip 120, let's say. So you do that a couple of times. I think for entertainment, you might end up spending like a close to a grand if you're really going out every weekend, every month. So add that with your rent. If you're living downtown, you want to live in like King West, you're probably spending 2,600 per month. So I would say your total expenses for a month probably end up being like 5K just to live, 4 to 5K just to live. And then I don't know what you're making as a job, but when you subtract that out of like your wage, you probably only have a gap of like a grand every day, every month that you're saving. So the only time I
Hmm.
felt like comfortable in Toronto is when I made like that much, when I was enjoying life completely. You can get by obviously with 100, but to enjoy life with Toronto, I would say over 200.
Hmm. And the one thing I noticed, maybe you've noticed this in Argentina as well, but like in Toronto, it's hard to do stuff without spending money. Like there's not a lot of free activities where I notice in Latin America and in Europe, there's a lot of like free activities or like nearly free, like less than $10.
Yeah, it's we have a joke. Some of my friends have a joke here. Is like to breathe in Toronto it costs $50 when you step outside. Um, yeah, there's not a lot of free stuff. I mean, they're trying. I see them do stuff with the parks, and they have things like Stacked Market in Toronto where you can just go out and just walk around. But I guess lockdown kind of made me open my eyes to a lot of stuff because I would say my favorite summer in Toronto was actually the 2020 summer where everybody was just like spending time outside having picnics. That was great. That actually got me to stop clubbing. Like since lockdown, I've gone to clubs. I don't really like going to bars. I stopped drinking because I noticed that when I spent time outside, I was just spending time with the people like I generally like the few friends I like, the few people I want to be around, and that was way more fulfilling than going down King Street and doing something dumb, and just getting drunk.
Hmm.
So I think that's the lifestyle that Toronto has, where it's just like, look, we in Toronto we try to flex way too much. We think we're New York, Miami, and LA at the same time. Everybody's trying to prove something. So I think in the Latin American countries, everybody's spending time outside with their family or friends. It's like the values are a lot different. You're not really trying to show off. That's not the vibe I got in Buenos Aires. Obviously, different economic climate over there. Even in Mexico City, I always, go to a park and there'll be like salsa lessons outside for free, things like that. We got a hint of it in lockdown with like the free outdoor fitness programs. I joined some of that, but as soon as lockdown ended, I think everybody's kind of went back into the, you know, let's give people on my Instagram FOMO kind of vibe on my Instagram stories, and it's all indoors.
And another one, I'm kind of like setting you up here, but since you mentioned King Street a couple times, it's King Street is a very sloppy experience.
Oh yeah,
Like it's so sloppy, and I've noticed that maybe you've had the same experience. If you go out in Buenos Aires or you go out in Mexico City, or in certainly in Poland, like well maybe Poland's a little sloppy. I'm not sure, but like
yeah.
it's not really sloppy. Like people, what's the word? They carry themselves respectfully the whole night even to 3 a.m. and beyond in Buenos Aires. I know this day we're pretty late, but they're still like pretty well put together. But like in you go down King Street and people are just like falling over each other and like it's like a disaster.
That is very true, and you're right. Argentina, that was probably my biggest struggle is that everything happened so late. I'm an early riser, so I mean, people eating dinner. I eat dinner at like 6:30. They're eating dinner at like 10 o'clock. So that was the hardest part about staying in Buenos Aires. But it's not like a full on negative. But you're right. They were carrying the souls a lot better. In fact, I didn't see anybody pass out on the street in Palermo when I think about it. In King Street, you'll see like fights, you'll see some chick crying because I don't know, something happened with her boyfriend, something like that. Some chick throwing up, another guy throwing up. You see cops everywhere. In Palermo, yeah, everybody's just kind of like sitting down, looking classy. In Buenos Aires, having dinner, they got shirts on. That's another thing is just the dress sense in all of these other countries. Um, Kind of made me come back and be like, yo, why do we dress like this? A lot of people, maybe more so in Eastern Europe, people wear clothes that fit them. I noticed in Eastern Europe, um, you don't see a lot of things hanging out the side, if you know what I mean. And I came back to North America, I'm like, yo, what are we doing over here, man? We're a bit sloppy in North America. I won't lie to you. I even switched up my dress sense when I came back from Mexico City, Argentina, Eastern Europe, things like that, because I came back after the last 2 years of living abroad for half the year. I came back and I was like, "Yo, we think we're doing it right, but we're probably the weird ones in the world in North America." That's the vibe I got.
That's profound. Expand on that a
Yeah.
bit.
We're, I mean, we're just odd. We're the odd ones. We think that because we have a thing on the, I guess not a monopoly maybe, but on the media, everybody wanted to be like us. I mean, I grew up in Africa until I was 15, and in Africa when I was younger, all we wanted to do was go to the U.S. That's literally all you ever wanted to do. If you're from Nigeria, I grew up in some other African countries, but that was just like, yeah, I got to go to America. Honestly, just to see how far, for anyone listening, like I don't know if this will resonate with you, but maybe if you're African, but 20 years ago, being an African kid and wanting to go to the US so bad, and then for an African to go to the US and Canada now and be like, yo, this place fell off. For an African to tell you that you fell off, that should make you feel somehow. Because, in North America, they kind of look down on Africa. Africa has a lot of successful people. I was not poor growing up. Like, if you have a good job in Africa, it takes a lot to send your kids to a school in the US. So a lot of Africans that you meet in North America, like their parents are doing like decently well in Africa, right? So those of us in Africa, we're just kind of like, yo, I don't know about this place anymore. Because when I was a kid, it was a dream. Now it's kind of sloppy. And it really hit me where, like, a lot of my friends, they're just like, you couldn't pay me to live in North America. Some of them have left already. And just going abroad and then coming back, and just honestly, things have just gotten so dirty. You won't believe how dirty big Western cities have become. I go to London a lot for my work. I work in the soccer industry and my other business. So I go to London. I've been going to London every year for the last 8, 9 years, maybe multiple times in a year. And I went to London last summer. I've never seen London, United Kingdom so dirty. I've never seen a homeless person in London, UK in my life until last year. And I saw tents. I've never seen tents in London. I didn't even know tents existed in London. Um, Berlin, same kind of thing. London, New York. I was just in New York a few months ago. All these Western country cities are just way dirtier than I can imagine. And then I go to the places where they told me that, how Tucker Carlson went to Moscow. I bet you,
Mhm.
yeah, I bet you Moscow is way cleaner. I bet you Moscow's safer than Toronto right now, even though there's like a war going on.
Easily.
But yeah, it's insane. Like if you see the state of Toronto, crack pipes. I've seen a dude doing crack. I saw a dude shooting up. Saw a homeless guy ran at me on the streetcar. Saw like five dudes sleeping on the streetcar, and I live in a pretty nice neighborhood, or it was a pretty nice neighborhood in Toronto. And just to see the stark difference in the last just 4 or 5 years, if you paid attention, you have to leave and come back to notice. Because I didn't notice how bad it was until I left, saw somewhere cleaner, and then came back.
Mhm.
And it's absolutely night and day. But just know that there's some Africans that are just like, yo, what are you guys doing? And that should make you feel that should make you feel bad.
Hey guys, quick break from the podcast to tell you about job stacking. If you're a remote or hybrid worker looking to maximize your earning potential, then Rolf Haltza, author of Job Stacking, guarantees you'll be able to double your income by implementing his paycheck multiplication layering method. This is the exact system Rolf has used to take his own income and those of many others beyond 20K a month. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, if you're interested in unleashing your earning potential and doubling your income, then click the link in the description and book a call with Rolf right now. Hey guys, quick break from the episode to tell you about BitRefill. BitRefill allows you to shop online and in person without banks, converting your crypto directly into merchant balance. We're talking gift cards to Nike, Amazon, Apple, Airbnb, Hotels.com, and many more, all paid for with crypto. BitRefill offers more than 10,000 gift card options in 180 countries all across Latin America, including Brazil, Colombia, Mexico, Argentina, El Salvador, and many more. You can also apply the code MyLatinLife at checkout to get 10% back on your first purchase. Go to bitrefill.com for more information. No, this is good stuff because you might be surprised to know that 170 odd episodes in, we don't actually really just complain about the West very much. We really more just focus on how great Latin America is, but it's good to get that. It's good to hear from you. It's good to hear it from someone else, because we see it on Twitter. You know, you follow End Wokeness or whatever, but just the more
Yeah.
different sources that you hear from, the better, I feel.
Yeah, and I thought it was just I thought it was just a Twitter thing, Even I thought that Canadians leaving, I thought that was just a Twitter thing until like, again, I met so many people in Argentina. And yeah, no, it's really fallen off. Like, again, I think I'm in a unique position because I'm Canadian on paper, but I didn't really grow up here. I only came here to work. My dad, what's interesting actually. What's funny is because all the stuff with migration that's happening right now. It's crazy because as a Nigerian, I see right through what's going on. Because when my dad came to Canada as a student, he got a full scholarship in the University of Calgary, and he was telling me that when he was there, Trudeau Senior was in charge.
Mhm.
And my dad loved Trudeau Senior. He was just like, "Oh yeah, Trudeau Senior was a great guy. He used to come to our school, give us talks, stuff like that." And he was like, "Oh yeah, he just gave us passports." Like my dad didn't really want to. He wasn't like that crazy about being Canadian. He was just there. And then I think his roommate was like, "Yeah, you should go get a passport." I think he got a passport in like a week or something. Apparently back then it was like super easy to get a passport if you're an international student or if you just came to Canada as a worker. And that's how I became Canadian. I never grew up here, but my dad got the citizenship, came back to Nigeria, had us, and since we were his kids, we could just get the passport. So I had the passport, never really used it until like I was 15 or so.
Hmm.
And it's interesting because you see what's going on with Trudeau Jr. You're like, there's a lot. We can see it in Toronto. There's a lot of migration coming over here. I saw it, across my old apartment. I was living in a really nice area, and like I would see a lot of migrants coming. Some of them probably come from my country because I looked at them. It's funny because in Nigeria, you can like look at another Nigerian, and they're Nigerian too. So I was kind of looking at these guys. I thought they were homeless, but I'm like, nah, dude, you're like that's like my cousin. What the hell's going on? He's got cell phones. He's got my laptop too. I was like, what's going on? Like, I was very confused for like a month or so. Then I was like, oh, there's a big migration issue. But it's basically what's going on is if I could call a spade, Trudeau Jr. is just doing what Trudeau Sr. did, where he just like brought a lot of people in to vote for him. Like, that's how I got here. Like, I'm a product of that. So I'll tell you right now, that's probably what's going on right now. I lived it.
Hmm.
My dad lived it. And basically, if you let somebody in a country, they like you. So my dad liked Trudeau Sr. So if anybody comes in, they're going to like Trudeau Jr. because he gave them a new opportunity. I think the opportunity was a lot higher in the 70s when my dad came in, but I think maybe half the people coming now are kind of like, I don't know, it's not as great as I thought it would be, and maybe they go back. But I think that's effectively, if anybody's unaware, that's effectively what's going on in Canada with the migration thing. Probably the same thing happened in the U.S., but trust me, Nigerians, we can see a scam coming from a mile away. So that's the scam that if anybody is unaware of what's going on. So
Because they let
I don't know
in
if
something
people.
like 1.3 million people in a year. Do you think it was because we really needed the labor or something? Or do you think it was really just for the votes?
Again, as a Nigerian, it's a scam. I think it's just for the votes. If it was for the labor, I mean, you wouldn't see. I always see these lines for like jobs at like LCBO or like I don't know, somewhere like Mississauga or something like that. So I don't think there's a lot of jobs. I know a lot of kids that watch my content. They're a lot younger. They can't get jobs right now. I graduated from university in the U.S. at the last economic crisis in 2008, 2009. So I was jobless then. So I can see when people are jobless now. People are less productive, it seems like. So I don't think it's for a labor shortage. I mean, it just simply is just a way of it's a way of manipulating votes. What's scary is what's going on in Canada and the U.S., especially in the U.S. How they're trying to stop Trump. They're taking him to court. They're doing this to stop Trump.
Yeah.
Again, Africans, we're looking at you guys. We're like, yo, that's the shit that we do in our elections. You guys do that too now? That's bad, man. That's actually bad because we grew up with that stuff. That's what politicians in Nigeria would do. They'll put their opposition in trials in jail, and you
Hmm.
guys have to resort to that now. Okay, you guys fell off because you're behaving just like us back in Africa. So,
So you know the playbook.
oh, we grew up in the playbook, man. We see it from a mile away. We don't like to say anything because we're just like, yeah, I'm in someone else's country, so let me just be nice. But we've seen it, we've lived it, we grew up in it.
Hmm. And so, with all these changes you're seeing, and now that you have a bit more of an international experience, how is this changing the way that you move and how you want to spend your time?
Well, I've started spending a lot less time in Canada. I'm trying to figure out where the best place to reside is. The reason I love Canada, I still like it. I still love it. My family's here. I have family in Alberta. They want me to move to Alberta, but I mean, buddy, that's a bit too cold, and doesn't help with a lot of my work is in Europe, so I have to be close to that time zone. And
Mhm.
I do have some of the probably the best friends I've made outside of college have been in Toronto. I still like Toronto people. I think Toronto people are the best in Canada by far. Vancouver's a bit socially awkward. I won't lie; it's kind of hard to make friends in Vancouver. But Toronto is just like boom, boom, boom. They got basketball. I love basketball. They got all these sports. I love sports. They got business. For Canada, it's got the most business. So I'm still pretty attached to Toronto. It's hard to give it up, but I keep thinking I'm like, if I want to be successful, if I'm on the trajectory that I'm on, it might suck in like 2 to 3 years for my situation. So I might have to plan ahead. Everybody thinks you're crazy, and then all of a sudden they realize that you have the right idea. Everybody thought I was crazy for playing video games in 2015, but turns out I had the right idea. It was right before like YouTube really took off and Twitch really took off, things like that. Um, Everybody thought I was crazy when I work at EA Sports, like when I was a kid, that video games would be a real thing. Video games is probably one of the biggest entertainment industries in the world. So I'm wondering, I'm like, where is Canada actually going? Like I don't get it because they just set up all these things to just make you not get out of this trap that you're in. Like you can't be spending like what's crazy is that we kind of think that it's normal to be spending like half our money on groceries and rent or 70% of our money on that. But you just go to a different country and it's just not like that. But one thing with Canadians that frustrates me is that we're very, I don't want to say docile, but we just kind of like, we're very agreeable. We're just like, oh, is that how things are? I guess we're cool. Whatever, man. Nobody complains. This is probably the most I've ever seen Canadians complain, which I know makes me realize that people are really getting fed up because again I've never really seen Canadians get fed up like they are now. Everybody's usually pretty calm about things, but we never speak up. We just kind of go with the flow and we just kind of take what's given to us. And it's bad now, but I was watching this. There was this economist. I think his name. I might butcher his name, but his name is Mark Melcham or something like that. I think he's like a Canadian economics professor on YouTube. Great guy on YouTube. I don't know anything about economics, but the way he explained, he left Canada because he was making a lot of money, and he basically saved millions by just moving to Costa Rica.
Mhm.
And one thing that he said that stuck with me is that like as bad as you think it is now in Canada, no matter what, and I was watching this video maybe 6 months ago, he said no matter what, he explained it in economic terms that the only thing that they'll ever do, but this is the government, the only thing the Canadian government will ever do to make the life of everyone better isn't to raise the people who are at the top or to raise the people that are at the bottom, give them better standards. It'll always be to take the people at the top down to pay for the people at the bottom. So no matter what, you can try and be successful, but they're only ever going to raise what you give to the people who aren't as successful as you. That's how it's just going to be. That's how they're going to pay for everything.
Mhm.
The only
Makes
way they can
sense.
pay for anything, any social program. Oh, we got. I mean, dude, I took the Serb money too. I mean, but I didn't understand it at the time. But hey, Serb. Oh, this carbon thing. Oh, we get the dental. We get some dental thing. I forgot what it's called. Oh, you get free money from so and so rebate. The only place that's going to come from if the the average person, isn't going to make more money, which it seems like in Canada, you're always going to take it from the people who are trying to be successful, and they're always going to use that to bring everybody else up, not the other way around. So if you're thinking about being successful in Canadian, it's like you actually got to sit down and think, how about I keep, you know, 70% of my money instead of 50%. It might not seem like a lot now, but let's say you want to make $1 million. That's like, 200, 300 grand difference. So think
Hmm.
about it. That's what I'm doing.
It's true. I got to interview that guy, man. I got to get the
Oh,
Costa
yeah.
Rica economist guy.
Yeah, you should. I keep messing up his name. I think it's Mark Melchum, I want to say. But he's got, I'll send it to you after. He's
If
got a
yeah,
great,
if you find it to me,
yeah, he's,
DM me. But speaking of Twitter, dude, we can't get through this episode without me asking you about your viral tweet, which is basically how I heard about you. So it's I'll read it out. I'm sure probably a lot of listeners have seen it, but they might not like immediately make the connection. But if you follow at Trust the Boy BOI on Twitter, you'll see this one. But basically, it's pretty straightforward. It goes been working remotely from Buenos Aires, Argentina for the past 2 months. Best things about it so far: $10 for 60 eggs, $20 giant premium steak dinners. Worth the stay on that alone. Flag emoji. And that's it. Picture of you holding eggs, picture of you holding 60 eggs in an elevator, and then a picture of
great
a
eggs.
steak. And that managed to generate over 100 retweets, almost 2,000 likes. A lot of
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting. That's by far your most viral tweet, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's the account that I just made for the non gaming stuff I do, and yeah, look, I've been told about Argentinians and racism before. I have been told about this. I'm not new to it. I'm very hard to offend, so it doesn't really bother me much. I don't care. People can defend their country. I really don't mind. I could care less. I don't care about BLM. That's a scam. I like to just live life and just try to be the best I can, and not try to have a victim mindset. It's okay if you do want to do that, but that's just not me. So I'll tell you about my experience with Argentinians. They're cool. I had no problems in Buenos Aires. Nobody will say anything to your face if you are someone black going to Buenos Aires. I'll tell you that right now. Nobody will bother you unless maybe they're drunk. I had one incident when I went to Boca Juniors versus River Plate, which is one of the biggest soccer matches in the world. It's been a
Hmm.
lifelong dream of mine to go to that fixture. I've been watching
That's pretty
soccer.
sick.
I'm Nigerian,
Yeah.
so we're obsessed with
That's hard to
soccer.
get
Yeah,
tickets.
spent a lot of money on those tickets. I'll tell you that. But luckily, it's a write off because I have to make content on it. Right. Only black guy in the stadium, by the way. That's cool. Not a problem. I actually don't mind. And like a stadium of like 60, 70,000 people. So I had really good seats. I was like almost pitch side. So everybody was just kind of looking at me like, what the? It wasn't like in a bad way. It was kind of like, yo, you guys can do that? First of all, it's probably like the first black guy they've seen because, again, this is River Plate Stadium. So I think they're a bit more well off. And then I was like pitch side. So like I had a lot of fancy dudes like around me. So they're just kind of like, bro, they could do that? What the hell, man? It was more like a shock kind of thing that like someone could get that kind of seat, maybe. I don't know. I caught a guy even taking a picture of me from way back. He was kind of waving to me like three sections down. I was like, was that guy waving at me? I was kind of because I couldn't speak Spanish. So I was trying to get into any trouble. I was like, let me just watch the soccer record. And then some guy was like waving at me. I was like, it was an old guy. It wasn't like a menacing wave. It was just like a wave. And I was like, huh? And then like he just kind of pulled his camera out and he was like zooming in. And I was just like, what the hell? So I think a lot of it is, okay, let's say you're someone black going to Buenos Aires, you should still go. Amazing city. People just kind of look at you funny because they're not used to you. One, I think there was a drunk guy outside the stadium. So when I was with my Argentinian friends, everything was cool, and then I had to go to a different section, so I had to go by myself. And when I don't speak Spanish, but then I remember walking by myself, and some drunk guy was just yelling "Bruja, Bruja, Bruja, hey Bruja, Bruja." I was like, "What the hell is Bruja?" Whatever. My friend told me that means witch or wizard. I was like, "Okay, I guess I'm Harry Potter. I don't fucking know." I guess that was a negative thing. So that was the only issue I had. Now, when it comes to Argentinians, though, I won't lie to you. On the internet, they go crazy because I've known this. Because Nigeria played Argentina in 2018 World Cup. I went to Russia for that. Russia was amazing, by the way, at least in 2018. Russia was awesome. So I went to Russia. Argentinians are crazy about soccer, obviously. I did like an Instagram story for another company. You know, when you take over someone's IG stories for the soccer magazine. And
Mm.
I was just, you kind of roast the other team. You make fun before the game. So I posted on the stories. I was like, oh, hey, this is me, ChuBoi, representing Nigeria. We're going to send Messi home tonight. That's all I said. My DMs, my brother in Christ, my DMs. I've never been abused racially more times per second than that. Good Lord. N bombs out the ass. I won't lie to you. And I was like, yo, guys, like, yo, what is going on? They're like, oh, we're just passionate about soccer. I'm like, yo, you don't have to go that far, right? So that was the first time. I was like, oh, that's interesting. They just really like soccer. Second time, I was watching Copa America with my friend. She's Argentinian. So I'm a Ronaldo guy, Ronaldo Messi. I like Ronaldo. He played for my team. So I was, on stories on my soccer Instagram. I was posting. I was like, hey, I'm with my friend. She's Argentinian. Ha, I hope Argentina goes home tonight. That's all I said. Just freaking two N bombs a minute, but brother, I'm not even kidding you. So they just don't argue with them about soccer. Don't say Messi sucks, and just yeah, don't. They only go that far when they feel, I guess, what's the word is. They only do it on the internet when they feel like insulted. Essentially, in person, nothing. On the internet, they go off. I think they felt like in that post I made that like I guess they're not happy with all the digital nomads coming. Because if any of you watch this, goes to the tweet. The quote tweets are wild. That's the wildest shit I've ever seen in my life on Twitter. And I work in gaming. I was in the Xbox 360 era. Um, they just don't like it when people are coming here. I think, and they're very proud. That's fair, but I don't think they'll do much in person. I think it's just more of an internet thing. And just know, I'm not even going. I don't like to drop the racism word a lot. I don't like to play the race card that like really ever. But just know the darker your skin, I feel like in South America, and my other Latin American friends have told me about that. Because by the way, they always warn me about Argentina. Like my Mexican friends, they were like, the only people who don't like is Argentinians. My Colombian friends, Argentinians. Like Brazilian friends, oh, we don't like Argentinians. I was like, huh, interesting. I could tell why. No offense to Argentina, it was great, but I would say just know that the darker your skin, the more they look down on you. That's all I'll say. That's how I felt. The looks I got was kind of like, "What are you doing here?" kind of thing. I'm still better than you. I might be broke making $100 a month, but I'm still better than you. Why? Oh, because I'm not as dark as you. That's the vibe I got. If I'm being brutally honest.
I feel like you could have kept playing into this on Twitter if you wanted to. I think you tried like a little bit, like once or twice, but if you just like kept posting like you, the black guy doing stuff in Argentina and being like, haha, so cheap.
I look. I really could have. Look, I've been on the online space for like almost a decade. I deal with gamers. Gamers are some vengeful mofos out there, man. There's still people that blame me for stuff I did when I was working at EA in 2015, and they still haven't let it go. So it's just not. Look, I'm in a session of my life where I just like peace. I don't like the internet and arguing with people on the
Fair.
internet or baiting people on the internet. You can do it for content. I've been in that space, gaming YouTube where you get, you get people angry for clicks and likes. I'm pushing 40, man. I don't need that in my head. So my friend did tell me to play it a bit up, but I was like, yo, if I keep doing this and someone fucking pulls up on me in Argentina, buddy, I'm trying to get home safe. I'm good, bro.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, that's kind of how we found you. So it worked a little bit. It's pretty cool. You've only done like 106 posts on your personal Twitter account. You got like 500 followers. So it's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is from my gaming side. On my gaming side, like across all platforms, I got like a million. but it's honestly just
Yeah,
no
that's
offense to
huge.
anybody that's watched from that side. It's like 18 to 24-year-old boys basically who play games. I've kind of started growing out of that since I'm getting a bit older. So I was like, you know what? I want to talk about my life outside of the game because one thing, if you're a FIFA content creator, people just like you for the game. Like they don't like you for you. If I'm being honest with you, they just want to see what you're
Hmm.
doing with the game, how you're playing it, who's the best player to buy. On my Instagram, that's my biggest platform. It's like 500K people on there. But dude, if I post a selfie, like I get like 1,000 people like unfollowed. They're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" Like, buddy, just tell me. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you eating dinner. How about you just tell me what players to buy in FIFA? How about that, buddy? Even
Hmm.
yesterday, like
So how do you make money?
I'm
How do you make money with this FIFA? So you got like a million people on FIFA. I mean, there's so many people out there that are passionate about sports, but and sports video games and stuff, but they don't know how to monetize it. How does it actually bring in money? I imagine maybe like YouTube ads. What else?
So the main way I started was Twitch. Like I was around when Twitch was becoming a big thing. I don't do
Okay,
it too much
and it
anymore.
was like paid streaming, or people would pay to subscribe to your Twitch.
So Twitch is probably the most monetizable platform. It's not the best platform. I think YouTube will always be the best one overall. But Twitch is very monetizable because there's so many avenues for revenue. There's subscriptions, which somebody pays $5 a month to subscribe. They get special privileges in the chat. It's all about interaction in the chat
Yeah,
as they watch the stream. So Twitch takes half of that. You keep half. So basically, you get 1,000 subs. You get half of that money, right? I'm sorry, I'm terrible about doing math in my head, but you get
sure.
half of what 5,000,
Yeah,
2,500, let's say.
yeah.
So there's that, right? So you're just trying to get as many subscribers as possible. So that's one way. Then there's advertising revenue, so you can basically play an ad whenever you want. You know how YouTube, you watch a video, it starts with an ad. On Twitch, I can be like, "Yo, I'm going to the bathroom." Ad. I can say play ads every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes. That's probably the best monetizable method right now. Twitch actually doesn't really tell you how much they're taking off of it. You just get like an amount, but you still get quite a bit. So there's that. People could donate to you to have like a special message. So if I donate to your stream
Right.
with a text message, the text message shows up on screen. So it's like getting a shout out basically. And then you
Mhm.
have brand deals. So people might Bose might sponsor my headset, so everybody sees that I'm wearing Bose headphones. They might pay me $1,000 a month, or I might do a sponsored stream with Coca Cola, and they'll pay me 5 grand a month for one stream, let's
And
say.
you really got
So we basically just
like
trying to get.
big clients like that? You really got big
Oh, and
sponsors
gaming.
like
I
that?
mean, gaming. Oh yeah, I've done um, Xbox, PlayStation, Adidas, Puma, Coca Cola. Done a couple times. Yeah, I mean, gaming is huge. I mean, it's such a it's like a separate world, but in that world, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, that's probably the place I know the most millionaires. But it is hard to make it because every kid wants to be a content creator right now, and
Uh,
everybody wants to be a Twitch streamer. Twitch is probably it's the most monetizable, but it's the hardest. It's the hardest platform to conquer because you got to
that
be
makes
on
sense.
it. Like kids want to watch you.
Are you really
Kid.
good at FIFA? Like, are you like exceptionally good at FIFA, or is it like a personality thing, or what?
So to be a good Twitch streamer, you have to be three things. You have to be either really entertaining, really good at the game or a game, or really inspiring slash interactive, right? If you can hit all three, you're basically a superstar. But you can make it by on one. I made it by on being like interactive, entertaining because there's a part of the game called Ultimate Team in FIFA or FC 24.
Hmm.
It's called now. It's basically I don't know if you've ever seen it's like trading cards. Like every player in real life has a digital trading card in the game. And if Messi, for instance, scores 3 goals, the next week he gets an improved version of the card. So it's like you're playing with fantasy football cards, but you get to play FIFA with them, like actual gameplay. But the new Messi shoots better than the old one, right? So all these kids, it's like $1 billion mode in FIFA because all the kids in Europe basically spend all their pocket money on these digital cards. And it's like if you pack a Messi,
So you
it's like
basically
winning the
help people to
lottery.
strategy on how to you're like a strategy guy, and you like tell people the good strategies, I guess.
Exactly, because new cards come in the game every day. So I'm basically telling them like, look, this guy costs 100,000 coins. I feel like there's gonna be a guy better in a week or so because they got so and so fixtures in real life. So I would wait right now, and I was more interactive that way because I used to work on the game. So I was the one at EA Sports to popularize that digital trading card mode because um, at EA it's a very nerdy mode in EA, and a lot of people in EA didn't understand it. So I got hired to basically popularize that mode in the public. So EA will do something, and I'll tell them, I'm like, yo, they're gonna do this, 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 and then next week they're gonna do that. And they're like, how'd you know that? I'm like, because I made the playbook, because they're using my strategy that I invented. So that's how I became known because when I was at EA, I was a public spokesman for the game. So everybody knew me, came to me for the news about what's coming out. And when I left, I was like, well, I could tell you how it's going to be. Not that I know, but that's what I think would happen. And I wrote the playbook. So, and then I
Mm.
became a presenter for the esports. So, people compete for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I knew a lot about the stats. So on TV, I'm the guy that does the halftime
Really?
show,
You're
that kind of thing.
present. You're
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
little
yeah. I've been
mini
on.
Joe Rogan, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at the tail end of the career, but I was on ESPN2 at one point. TBS. I was filming across from Shaq. I met Shaquille O'Neal at the Atlanta studios at TBS. Biggest person I've ever met in my life. But it gets broadcasted on TV, especially in Europe. It's why I moved from Vancouver to Toronto because the flights to Europe are a lot quicker. Most of the events happen in London, Germany, Paris. So that's how I made it in that sense. Was through Twitch. Don't stream that much anymore because Twitch is hard to crack because you basically, I mean, you got to stream 6 days a week, 5 hours minimum. And I could play a
Wow,
game. I used to be able to play a game that much when I was 20 something, but now that I'm 37, I mean, it's a hard ask. Life gets in the way. So I do more. Most of my revenue comes from brand deals, things like that on Instagram.
on Instagram. Interesting. Do you have like an assistant that goes out and does the negotiations and tries to like bring in the business, or?
Yeah, I do have an agent. My agent's actually an agency made by my old coworkers at EA Sports. So they left. We were in the same marketing department. They left and they made their own talent agency. So I do have an agency that finds deals, stuff like that, and then I have like personal assistant, that kind of thing.
Man, you're living the dream. So basically, playing video games, posting on Instagram, going to soccer games all around the world, and now throwing some Latin America digital nomad type stuff in the mix. Sounds like sounds like a good life.
Yeah, look, I won't lie to you. It's a good life. It can wear you down because the thing with one thing I'll tell anyone that makes their passion their job is then you start to lose that passion for the thing you love. Like the only two things I ever loved in life as a kid was soccer and video games. I luckily got to work in soccer and video games, but then when it becomes your job, it's like it adds a layer of stress on you. And you see things that you wouldn't have noticed. Um, and like I mentioned before, maybe the people you work with aren't as passionate as you, so it kind of takes its toll on you. And like now, I find it very hard to enjoy video games outside of FIFA. Like I'll be honest, I used to be the biggest gamer. Outside of me playing FIFA, I can only have time to watch someone else play a video game on Twitch. I barely get enough time to play video games. That's maybe just me personally, but it definitely took my love out of gaming. So after you lose that love of the thing you love so much, it's like I kind of try to find new things to love as much, and it's pretty hard. And also as a content creator, we content creators in gaming and even all industries, I start to look at it like we're the same as musicians. I mean, there's very few musicians that are relevant for more than 5+ years. Like those are the outliers, the Drakes, the Jay-Z's, Snoop Dogg's. That's like 1% of the music industry that lasts more than 5 years. Usually, you hear some hit songs for like 2, 3 years, and then you forget about that person. I don't know, like who, nobody's talking about Flow Rider right now, right? But when I was in college, Flow Rider was the guy, right? Same thing in gaming. Like I've been in it for almost, it'll be 10 years next year. I run into kids. It's actually funny. I run into kids that who know who I am. I get recognized, and they're like, "Oh my god, like it's you!" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, what's up, man?" And they're like, "Oh man, I used to watch you." And it sounds weird at first, but it's like, no, they're like, no, it's because like I started watching when I was like 15. I'm now 25 and I have like a wife and kids. So like I literally have no time to watch you. And I grew out of gaming. So like a lot of my fans have grown out of gaming. And then as you go older too, I'm 37. I might not have as much in common as again, gaming is 18 to 24. That's the main demographic. How much do I have in common with someone that's half my age? Versus a new streamer coming up, a new musician
Mm.
who knows the lingo, who lives the same life as the 18-year-old. So you're going to get eventually pushed out after 8 or so years unless you are able to reimagine yourself. All the good musicians that stick around for decades, Madonna reinvented themselves, Drake reinvents himself, probably the best at doing that. So you got to reinvent yourself. And I've chosen to reinvent myself in different ways. Like I basically am working on aside from what I do with content, I work on this. It's like a FIFA statistics database for the game. It's like a
Nice.
companion website for the game, and that's gonna outlive me, right? So I'd rather work on that. I don't have to, be online yelling at pixels all day because that gets very stressful. And again, can't be doing that while you're pushing 40. It's insane if you're doing that at that age, is what I think. But that's where I'm going versus, other creators might start a new YouTube channel. I also want to do this trust the boy thing, help people become healthy because I'm a healthy gamer. I feel like there's not too many of those. I don't know why, but I get mad at other gamers for not being healthy. So it's a route I'm exploring now. Just started, so we'll see how it goes.
Cool, man. I like it. Well, I think you picked a good game. At least FIFA's not going anywhere, right? Like if you were the Halo guy,
Yeah.
that you would have been out of a job. But at least FIFA has some longevity. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
cool. So our elder statesman of FIFA, trust the boy. We'll get to wrapping up now. Our FIFA elder statesman, our 60 egg enthusiast, our what message do you want to share with the audience at this point in time?
um, I would say I watched that guy. I think it's Nomad Capitalist, and something he always says is "Go where you're treated best." Um, and that kind of stuck with me. That's something my friend would tell me, the one that got me to leave Canada for a little bit just to see what's out there. So,
Hmm.
look, I'll tell you, anybody living in Toronto, Canada, look, I make good money. I'm a pretty good looking guy. I still struggle like dating in Toronto sometimes. Like, and to me, that's insane. I'm fit, well over six figures. I'm over 6 foot tall, and even I'm like kind of stressed out with dating. So I don't know what it's like for the average dude in Toronto. When I go to a different country, I'll tell you right now, things are a lot easier, especially in that department. Because, and I think you actually had funny thing. I think one of your last guests was Skylar, the guy from
Hmm.
Brazil, Skylar de Ruin. And I
Hmm.
was actually, I talk to him every now and then. Like I just know him from online. And something that he pointed out was that, like, look, guys, don't feel bad about leveraging your strengths because there's girls on Instagram can leverage their best asset, which is their looks. Like my friend is a very good looking girl in Toronto. Brother, I'm telling you, she's met Drake and LeBron so many times that she's bored. And she does, she's a, she doesn't have a crazy job. She just looks very good. She posts pictures on Instagram. She gets hit up by the OVO crew. She's been at Drake's house multiple times. She's hung out with like the basketball players that I idolize. She's met all of them. I'm just like, dude, I would have to work my lifetime to even be in the same room as them. But hey, I'm not mad at that because she leveraged her best asset, which is her looks. She posts amazing pictures on Instagram. People hit her up. So what that Skylar guy was saying was that, like, look, if your best asset is your your wealth, your resources, don't feel bad about going somewhere where you can take advantage of that. If anybody makes you feel bad about leaving, like I see everybody, you know, I actually laughed at this whole passport bro thing because again, I was listening to what other people are telling me is like people are clowning it, and I'm like, wait, how come people can leverage their looks on Instagram? Girls can do that, but a dude can't go somewhere else and leverage his wealth. I mean, don't get me
And
wrong,
it's
some
not just
passport
wealth; it
broke
can
guys
be
are not the
even just
best.
having a different look or being like even just a height thing, like being 6 feet
Yeah.
tall in Toronto isn't a big deal, but being over 6 feet tall in Mexico is like enormous. So that can be
Oh
a
yeah.
advantage in the dating market. So it's not just about the wealth differential.
Exactly. Go where you're treated best. Go where you can make the most of your advantages. Like I wouldn't say I did well in Argentina. Dating wasn't the best in Argentina. I actually did. I wasn't even in the dating mindset to be honest with you. For I would think for obvious reasons, but I don't like to think about that. I literally did not try. A lot of my friends who are like pause good looking guys. I met some German guys, some Canadian guys. Even they were kind of like it was kind of weird to date in Argentina. It was a bit flaky. They said Mexico and Brazil was totally different, but Argentina was a bit flaky. I didn't have much success in Argentina. I wasn't really trying as much as I could. But if I go to places like Eastern Europe, my lord, it's like I'm walking down the street. I'm like, why are girls looking at me? And I'm like, wait, that should be normal, but it just doesn't happen as much in Toronto. So I think it's weird. But if I go to like Europe or if I go to Asia, I don't know, or some other country, I get treated better. So I'm open to going to those places and taking advantage. I haven't decided where I'm going yet, but still figuring out. Still love Canada, but I don't know how long I can love it.
And just to not leave things on the dating note, geo arbitrage, obviously, as your viral tweet showed, is not just about dating. It's about cost of living. Maybe it's about walkability. It's about safety. It's about not having crazy homeless guys, chasing you when you walk out your building in downtown Toronto. So it's really a combination of all these things, right?
Yeah, it's a combination. I didn't even think the safety thing was that big until like I mean, I've been around so many. When I look back at the 6 years I've been in Toronto, I think I've been 2 blocks away from like 5 or 6 shootings, which isn't normal. Um, to me, it's just like whatever. But like some of the biggest shootings in Toronto, like I've literally been near my places in downtown in nice areas. So safety, cost of living is huge. I mean, guys, it's not normal to be spending this much on groceries or rent. It's just not normal. And then just think about your future, like the amount of money that you save in a better cost of living, especially in your 20s. If you're a guy in your 20s, you don't have any kids, like brother, just get out for a few years. Even like you could save, like your bros might clown you for like going somewhere else, but leave for 5 years and come back and see how further ahead that you are from them because they had to, spend 70% of their money on just living versus you only had to spend 30%. Save that money, come back, see how different it's gonna be.
hmm And we are getting winding up, but I wanted to ask you this one
Sorry.
thing, which is some people be like, forget saving, just make more money, bro. Like, just make more money. But like, at some point, you do have to save, right?
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. Like 2019 was my most successful year in my life, and I just realized that like I mean, I did the lifestyle creep thing, which was stupid, and I just end up spending more money. And yeah, you just end up with. I mean, I bought a condo in downtown Toronto, which is that's a whole nother story. But after a while, like if you're just not, it's just about what you keep. It's not much about what you save. You might be as wealthy as somebody who makes 3 times as much as you because they're probably spending so much that they only have like a grand left a month. But everything the most important thing is just not spending money on dumb stuff. I don't have a car in Toronto because I think that's just too much of a liability. Just again, rich dad, poor dad, assets liabilities, but just keep the liabilities
hmm
down because dude, you can flex that you make 300K, but if you're making 300K and you're only taking home like 2 grand a month, then you're no better than the guy making 100K taking home 2 grand a month. You guys are the same guy. One is just being a bozo, and one other method's gonna take you a lot further in life. I mean, I learned that lesson way too late. I wish I learned it a lot sooner. But clubs, waste of money. New cars, waste of money. Drinks. When I quit drinking, I saved like $500 a month. Just all the unnecessary extra stuff, flexing for people. I don't buy any designer clothes. That's the dumbest thing ever. Keep your liabilities down. Keep your costs down.
I like it. Let's wrap on that. So, again, my guest today, Chu, aka Trust the Boy, will be linking all his socials in the show notes. Want to thank Chu again for joining us. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Cheers. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Bit Refill. BitRefill is the best way to spend your crypto in Latin America. Purchase gift cards or mobile refills from more than 3,500 brands in 186 countries instantly, safely, and privately. Visit bitrefill.com for more information. This episode of the My Latin Life podcast is brought to you in part by Job Stacking. Introducing Rolf Haltza's Paycheck Multiplication Layering Method, a revolutionary approach that redefines the traditional career path. This is Rolf's new Done With You program, where he'll work with you to implement job stacking for yourself. With this method, Rolf contractually guarantees that you'll be able to double your income in 45 days. So, are you ready to step out of the shadows of job insecurity and step into a world of career abundance? Then just click the link in the description of this episode, book a call with Rolf, and start walking the path of unleashing your earning potential with job stacking.